All right, let's dive into one of America's all-time classic ghost stories, Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. It's so much more than just a spooky tale. It's a story about ambition, superstition, and a mystery that people are still talking about centuries later. So let's get into it. Right from the get-go, the story drops us into this world that feels, both magical and really unsettling. We're in a place where the local folklore feels just as real as anything else, and one man's big dreams are about to run headfirst into the town's darkest legend. So Irving paints this picture of Sleepy Hollow as this dreamy, almost enchanted place that's kind of stuck in the past. But hiding right under that peaceful surface is this really powerful current of superstition. The people there live and breathe ghost stories, and the number one ghost, the one that basically defines the whole area, is the terrifying Headless Horseman. So who is this phantom exactly? Well, the legend says he was a Hessian soldier fighting in the Revolutionary War who, lost his head to a cannonball. Pretty gruesome. His body's in the churchyard, but his ghost is stuck here, forever riding through the night looking for that missing head. This is the legend that hangs over everything and everyone in the story. Now, this story isn't just about a ghost. At its very core, it's about a classic rivalry. It's a showdown between two completely different guys who are after the exact same thing. Let's meet them. On one side, you've got our outsider, Ichabod Crane. He's the new schoolmaster in town, all the way from Connecticut, super lanky, and he acts like he's the smartest guy in the room. But deep down, he's incredibly superstitious and honestly pretty greedy. And on the other side, we have Abraham Van Brunt, better known as Brom Bones. This guy is the town's hero. He's handsome, strong, everybody loves him, and he's a legendary prankster. You really couldn't find two more opposite people. And what are they both after? The hand of Katrina Van Tassel, the daughter of a super rich farmer. But here's what's so telling about Ichabod's character. He's not just interested in Katrina. He's absolutely obsessed with the idea of inheriting her family's incredible farm. As for Katrina, well, she seems to be loving all the attention, playing the star of her own life story, and enjoying being pursued by both of them. Okay, so this whole rivalry, this mix of greed and local pride, it's all building up to the story's most famous scene. It all comes to a boil one night after a big party at the Van Tassel farm. So picture this. Ichabod has a little chat with Katrina. It clearly doesn't go well, and he leaves the party feeling totally defeated. He starts his ride home all alone in the dark. All those ghost stories from the party are swirling in his head, and every little sound is freaking him out. And then he realizes he's not alone. There's another rider, huge and dark, following him. And then the absolute horror sinks in. This rider has no head. It's carrying its head on the front of its saddle. What happens next is just a pure panic-fueled race. Ichabod desperately gallops toward the old church bridge, the one place the ghost is supposedly unable to cross. But just as he makes it to the other side, the horseman stands up in his stirrups and he throws his head and it hits Ichabod square on, knocking him right off his horse. The next day, Ichabod Crane is gone, just vanished. All they find is his horse wandering around, his hat, and a smashed pumpkin right by the bridge. And this, right here, is the central mystery of the whole story. What in the world actually happened to Ichabod? So, was Ichabod really taken by a ghost from beyond the grave? Or was he the target of the most elaborate, terrifying prank ever pulled? The story is so brilliant because it never gives you a straight answer. It just lays out the clues for both sides. Okay, let's look at the evidence like detectives here. If you're on Team Supernatural, it's simple. The horseman got him. End of story. But if you think about it rationally, it's totally plausible he just got so scared that he ran away and never came back. That smashed pumpkin? Believers might say it's just a coincidence. But for a skeptic, well, it's the perfect thing to throw at someone to make them think they've been hit by a severed head. And here's the kicker. Brom Bones? He marries Katrina right after Ichabod disappears, and people say he always has this knowing little laugh whenever anyone mentions the story, and the pumpkin. And then, Irving gives us this one last fantastic little twist. The narrator mentions that years later, he heard a different story, that Ichabod Crane wasn't taken by a ghost at all. No, he just packed up, moved to a different district, became a successful lawyer, and eventually a politician and a judge. And this is Irving's subtle satirical punchline. Of course, a gullible, self-important guy like Ichabod would do great in politics.
This whole was it real or not mystery isn't just a clever trick. It actually points to one of Washington Irving's biggest ideas, something that goes way deeper than a simple ghost story, and he really explores this through some powerful symbols.
Irving is just masterful at layering in these symbols to give the story more meaning. Take music. Ichabod thinks he's a great singer, but he's actually terrible, which just shows how vain he is. His books, especially the one about witchcraft, represent this kind of formal, book-smart learning that the villagers who prefer telling stories just don't trust. In fact, after he vanishes, they burn his books. And even the landscape itself, the streams and brooks, they represent both the peaceful, beautiful side of nature and the wild chaos of that final, terrifying chase. So all these symbols point to the story's big themes. There's this deep appreciation for the beauty of nature, for sure. There's that sharp satire about ambition and politics. But the most important theme, the one that ties it all together, is about how unreliable stories can be. Irving is always pushing us to ask, how do we know it's real? Who's telling the story? And can we actually trust them? And just in case we didn't quite get the point, Irving has the person turning the story cap it all off with this brilliant line. When someone questions if his story is true, he just says, I don't believe one half of it myself. I mean, that's the ultimate wink to the audience, isn't it? It's a reminder to always think critically about the stories we're told. So in the end, Washington Irving just leaves the mystery hanging there. Was it a real ghost, or was it Brom Bones with a pumpkin? The story is fantastic either way, but it forces us to look in the mirror and ask a bigger question. Why do we believe the stories we do? Which version of the story do you choose to believe? And what does that say about you?